Hi, Robyn. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm very happy to have you here and to learn more about Emancipet.
Oh, it's great to be here.
So, can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and how you came to your position as Vice President of Development at Emancipet?
Absolutely. It's an interesting story. I have a very diverse background. My majority of my career was in broadcast radio, and then I worked in sports and entertainment for a number of years. And I also developed some philanthropy projects for some of the people in the sports and entertainment world. But through all that, I used to call myself a serial volunteer. I had found my own dog rescue in 2012. I volunteer for vets. Wherever there's a need, I tend to go towards it. And I was reading some job descriptions last summer, and when I read the job description for Emancipet, I felt that it was written perfectly for me. It was the first time it pulled in all of my talents for my entire career. And I was so excited to actually apply and then meet the people at Emancipet. And I started in September.
Love that. It's great that you actually had such a background doing other things that I'm sure all of those skills apply to what you do now, but that you had this passion for animals and for this lane of work, and that you landed there and found what sounds like it's a great spot for you.
It's perfect. I have never been happier. It's one of those things where I roll over at 5:30 in the morning and go, "Ooh, let's go do it. Let's make change." And it feels really good.
I love that because on this podcast, I really do love kind of concentrating on a theme of, we talk a lot about compassion and community, but also about how can you take the things that you're passionate about and get more involved and do something to help support those things. And a lot of times it is just people having a regular 9-to-5 job that has nothing to do with their passion, which is great. And then you find your passion and you do that in your off time. But to be able to get a job where you're doing something that you're that passionate about, I mean, it feels like you hit the jackpot, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I count my blessings every day. I'm completely grateful for it.
I love it. Well, let's get into what Emancipet is. So, Emancipet is a nonprofit organization on a mission to make veterinary care affordable and accessible to everyone. All pet owners want happy and healthy pets, but costs can make it hard to afford veterinary care. So can you tell us more about how Emancipet works to remove barriers to offer high-quality, affordable veterinary services to pet families in need?
Absolutely. That's a great question. The barriers is a big component to our mission. And the first and foremost, by offering quality vet care at a low cost, it's a highly dynamic model that we use. And part of that is we're nonprofit. So take away the profit, and that brings the cost down dramatically. So then you're looking at the actual hard costs. What is costing Emancipet to perform these services, to treat these pets? And we charge 70% of that as our low cost rate. The other 30% is what we fundraise. That 30% discount is able to be given to our patients because of donors and supporters and fundraising events and all of that. So that subsidy is like a discount that brings our costs down even lower than just what our hard cost is. So that actually goes into our pricing being very transparent across the board. Our website lists the price for all of our services, and keeping in mind, we don't turn anybody away. So even though our costs are so low, some people still can't even afford that. We've developed a zero interest payment plan because one thing we've learned is people actually want to pay for the care for their pets. They can have be under very low income levels and cannot afford the services, but they want to. So this kind of empowers them back to be able to, they make the terms. It could be $20 a month. It could be $5 a month. 0% interest on the day they want to pay it, and it empowers them to feel that they are actually paying for the services, which is absolutely amazing, removing that and removing that barrier by giving them that empowerment. Another big barrier is language. So we make sure every one of our clinics is bilingual, so that people that come in that may not speak English do have that resource of somebody that can be compassionate in their own native tongue. So we remove that barrier as well. And another very important barrier is, and this kind of plays on the whole compassion world that we're talking about today, is our non-judgment to everybody that comes through our door. And I'm not sure if you've seen our mini documentary, No Companion Left Behind.
I have seen some of it. I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but I was absolutely loving the whole premise of it.
It's amazing. It's 25 minutes. Make sure you watch the whole thing. It's very powerful. But in the mini documentary, there is one of the clients in Texas who was homeless, and she saved and saved. She knew her cat needed vet care. And she saved and she saved, and she was terrified that we would take her cat away if we found out she was homeless. Oh. And it was obvious to our technicians and our veterinarian that she was dealing with a housing situation, and we took care of all of her vet costs for her. We've followed her story. She now is in affordable housing. Her bond with her animal is that's all she had, and it's stronger than ever because now her pet is healthy and gets regular checkups and gets the preventative medicine that he needs. So that judgment-free zone is a big barrier because people either might feel embarrassed or might feel like in her situation where they might take my pet away. And that's not how we are at Emancipet. We offer that kindness, that warmth, that compassion in a very judgment-free zone.
Oh, I love that. And even, to take it back a little bit, as you were describing how you empower people to feel like they're able, I would imagine that if you were in that situation, you want to feel as though you can care for your pet, yes. Right? And so that can just bring with it all sorts of, trauma and pain for the pet owner to feel like I can't provide for this, this little being that's so important to me. And so I love that you do that. And what a powerful story to share of that woman. Again, I also could see how she would feel like they're going to take my only companion away. Mm-hmm. That's really powerful that you're able to remove that barrier among all the other barriers that you just mentioned. Can you tell us the range of services that you offer at your clinics to meet the community's needs?
Well, that's excellent to talk about because our communities are so different. And we have 11 clinics in 3 cities, Philadelphia, Austin, Texas, and Houston, Texas. So we offer different services in those 11 clinics based on our research of those communities and what is most needed. But we offer everything from healthy pet services, which is, your checkup, your regular vaccinations, your preventative medicine like heartworm, flea and tick meds, things of that nature. We offer dental surgeries, dental exams and cleanings. We offer soft tissue surgeries, which include things like amputation. Sometimes it's life-saving surgery. We have a lot of situations where, and obviously I'm missing the big part, spay and neutering is a very large part of what we do. So we offer that across the board. And I think I hit base on all of them. But
that's wonderful. So in all of those 3 cities, you have clinics where anybody who needs this type of support can go to the clinic, or is there a process that you have to go through before you get to the clinic to be able to utilize those services?
So the good thing is we don't require any kind of proof of income or geographic location. Anybody can come into our clinic from anywhere. I'll use Philadelphia here as an example. We have a lot of patients from northern Delaware, South Jersey, but we do really service that community of like Northeast Philadelphia around our clinics. But we do not require appointments for healthy pet services. So you can come in. It's actually a really great system. The first time I saw it, I was blown away. The doors open, 8 o'clock, the line starts. We take your name, your cell phone number. The first 4 patients come into the lobby to wait to be seen. And then we will text the remaining people as they keep checking in a half hour before they should come back. Just like at a restaurant when you get the little beeper.
Great idea.
Yeah, it's amazing. So you can come and register at 8 o'clock and know you're coming back in the afternoon for our healthy pet services. For spay and neuter, the other big category for us, that does require an appointment. And demand is so high. We are, a couple of our clinics in Texas are booking out to 2025 already.
Wow.
Here in Philadelphia, we're about 2 months out. So there's just so many hours, so many spaces, so many tables to do that. But that does require an appointment.
But that's great. I love the sound of that whole system,
Yeah.
that you can show up that morning and you don't have to stay there all day waiting. You know when your time is to come back.
Right.
And that actually leads me to my next question, because 80% of people who have a pet consider their pet a part of their family. And that hasn't always been the case. But things in recent years have really shifted. Can you tell us more about that?
The multi-species family. I love this one because I happen to be one of them. There's a lot of elements that go into why this has changed. But, in recent years, COVID was a big part of that. People bought pets more. And I think that mentality of having pets in your family, and this ties in so nicely with the compassion, is, during COVID, people were suffering, dealing with a pandemic, being locked in their homes, and pets bring this unconditional love that, I'm sorry, we don't get from humans necessarily. And I think that has allowed people to embrace their pets as more of a family member. And just times have changed a lot. Generations before us, it was normal to have 6, 7, 8, 9 kids. My mom was one of 7 kids. And that trend's kind of changed today. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because of course it does, but you see a lot more families with 3, 2, 1, and none. That's socially acceptable to not have any children. So there's a lot of people that look at their pets as part of their family.
Yeah, which makes it just that much more clear how important your services are, because that means that there's a lot of people who consider these pets as truly their stability emotionally. And but then it doesn't mean that they necessarily have the means to care for them. But how important it is to their everyday life and their quality of life for that pet to be healthy. And you're really helping them have access to that for their family.
That is a core for us. We believe that pet owners want to do right by their pets if given the opportunity. And that's really what we provide, is that opportunity to do so.
Yeah, it's really a great need, I would imagine, and it's a growing need at this point as well. You estimate that 60 million owned pets in the United States belong to families who do not have access to veterinary care that they can afford. You project that 40 million of those pets will experience dental issues, dental disease in their lives. Can you tell us more about the new dental and surgical clinic that Emancipet is opening that is estimated to provide 4,000 low-cost dentals and 3,600 low-cost soft tissue surgeries every year? Tell us more about that.
It's so exciting. So we actually started doing dental surgeries back in 2016 out of one of our Austin locations. But we were doing it once or twice a week, 3 or 4 surgeries a day, just due to space and time. And we saw a need increase tremendously for a more constant availability to do those types of procedures. So we just opened this year the first model. It's a new model for us to be able to have that increase in volume that is needed. We're trying to keep up with that demand, but this is a model that we hope to share with the entire field of other veterinary practices, that this can be done. So we're very excited to see, where we'll be in a year with that. It is that brand new, but it's definitely something we hope to bring to more of our locations.
That's wonderful. And yeah, hopefully the idea spreads and that many more, pet owners will have access to that type of care that is critical. So also, can you tell us more about the different type of events that you host to, bring about awareness of what you're doing and help people just tap into an understanding of how, they can work with Emancipet?
Absolutely. So as I had mentioned in our model, we are responsible to raise 30% of these costs, which is a very big number. And part of that is your, digital campaigns, your planned giving opportunities, your grant writing, your regular donations, in-clinic donations. But a big part of that is events. One, we want to get into the communities and know our neighbors and be a part of that community. But two, we also want to create dynamic events that pet lovers across those markets can participate in. Let's face it, everyone with a pet loves to go to pet-friendly events. So we really try to be creative with the events that we come up with. Each market's a little bit different. So I'll speak about Philadelphia here. I have 3 signature events a year. In the spring, I do Pulling for Pets up Lemon Hill, which is in partnership with Philadelphia Parks and Rec and Parks on Tap. So Parks on Tap is happening at Lemon Hill Mansion, and we have a big pet village filled with some vendors and some local rescues that bring adoptables, and some activities and some other fun stuff happening, all while raising money. And then people can actually dress up, they can pull a wagon, ride a bike, walk, run around the iconic Lemon Hill Loop, which it's actually a very steep hill. So that's why Pulling for Pets up Lemon Hill. So that's the first signature event of the year. The second one, which is so awesome to have been a part of, is we partnered with Wawa Welcome America. And we did the first pop-up Avenue of the Barks. And that occurs during the Avenue of the Arts block party. And we, the first year there was over 20,000 people that came out to that event, and they, a lot of them brought their dogs with them, and there was no designated place for them specifically. So partnering with Emancipet, they allowed us to curate that space, cooling, the little baby pools for the dogs to cool off in, and toys and some activities and some photo ops. And of course, we're partnered with Tito's Vodka for Dog People, who is a big supporter of Emancipet. That's a whole other story.
Yeah, I love that. I'd love to hear more about that.
And they create a beverage called the Barkarita. And so $1 of every Barkarita sold throughout the day goes to Emancipet. So it really is a unique way to get people involved and giving their pets an opportunity to chill out and have a place to go and call it their own.
It's such a great idea that you're partnering, like it seems like you're partnering with other events that are already existing, but then adding this great element of bringing the pets into it and making it really fun for the pet owners who already want to attend the event.
Yes.
I love that.
I'm very fortunate with my previous experiences to have some pretty good contacts and friendships and
good ideas. It sounds like you've got very good ideas.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And my last signature event for the year is Wagging Tailgate, and that's a tailgate watch party for a Eagles game in September of the year. So September, October. We'll say fall. Where people can come out and we do raffles and silent auction, and it's at live casino, and it's just an opportunity to raise money for a good cause again while having a good time, and then watching, Philadelphia, how we all are about our birds. I always joke, come for the birds, come for the dogs, stay for the birds.
That's great. That's what I'm saying. I think it's just such a good idea to bring people out for something they're excited to do, but then give them the opportunity to bring their pet along as well. And then there's the opportunity to give, which is just kind of ties it all together.
Yeah,
That's
the goal.
great.
Thank
So lots of good events going on out there. We'll make sure to link in the show notes more information about how people can find out about those and get involved. What about volunteer opportunities? How does that work with Emancipet?
So, like our events, everything, including volunteer opportunities, can be found at our website, emancipet.org. And again, like I mentioned, our events in Houston and Austin are much different than Philly. But we're always looking for good volunteers specifically for those events. It takes a village, if you can imagine. On a shoestring budget. So volunteering is very much appreciated. But of course, people can support us and our mission just by making a random donation, which you also can do on our website. People can support us by sharing our message. That's very important in all of our markets, that more and more people need to know what we do, and we're here for them. Like I said early on, there's no geographic limitation. So the more people that do learn that they might have to travel 20 more minutes, but to be able to get this affordable quality vet care for their pet can be the difference of surrendering their pet or keeping their pet, because that typically is the number one reason why people surrender their pets is they can't afford vet care.
Yeah. Awareness is a very important piece, I would imagine.
So I don't consider that volunteering, but in a sense it is. You can help us by getting our mission out. Yeah. Watch our mini documentary.
Absolutely. I would recommend that, because especially just the story that you shared, that was a brief little snippet of that piece. I think it's really important for people to get a better understanding of what is this person facing in having to choose between maybe veterinary care, or that woman was homeless, you know what I mean? And so she is having a challenge providing care for herself in a sense, but the last thing she would want to do is neglect her animal. And so, just being able to see that story all the way through, I think watching the documentary is a great idea.
Plan on crying.
Yeah, plan on crying. I'll be sure to link that in the show notes as well, so that people can easily access that. So on this show, we like to discuss the topics of compassion and community. They're my two favorite topics. So can you start?
Mine too.
Are they? Good. Well, what's funny? I think that most people that come on this show really enjoy talking about those things. So it's always a really good fit. And I always get really unique responses, which is, I love that. So let's start by telling us what your definition of compassion is, and how does it relate to the work that Emancipet is doing?
So when I read this question, what first came to mind is what I think everybody thinks of is sympathy, empathy. And then I thought about it and I was like, but sympathy and empathy, while they're a part of it, I feel that that's more the emotion, and compassion is the action. And I mean, it's an act of compassion. And the core to all of that is kindness. I mean, to me, compassion means kindness, because whatever that act of compassion may be, as long as it's kindness, it's compassion. So I think they all play a part in it, but to keep it very simple, I think kindness is compassion.
I totally agree. And it's like that's the root, right? And
right.
Compassion comes from the root of the feelings of empathy and sympathy, but really it's kindness is like the catalyst for the compassion.
And I think people, and this kind of also ties into why people have turned their pets into family members. I think we all have this ability to feel compassion because of the empathy or sympathy we feel, because we've all suffered. We've all experienced pain and loss. So from that, if you see somebody in pain or suffering from something, the empathy is understanding what they're going through. The sympathy is knowing what they're going through, because we've all gone through it to different degrees. And then it's the determination to take action. It's funny, I did look up what compassion technically is. And I didn't know this, but compassion actually, it was derived and it means suffering together.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know that.
I did not know that.
It means to suffer together. Like that is how 40,000 years ago or whatever it was. Not that long.
4,000. That's how they've
defined
defined it.
Right. It was suffering together. And that impressed upon me the fact that that's kind of what it is. You want to alleviate and take some of that pain away from somebody, that action. And I felt really good thinking this, even on my drive here, because actions are teachable. Actions can be nurtured. And whereas like the empathy and the sympathy side of it being an emotion and a feeling, you can't necessarily teach or nurture that. That has to kind of come from within. But you can practice compassion.
Yes.
Through acts of kindness.
And you can be an example of compassion that ignites that process in somebody else. I'm so glad that you looked at the definition, because of all the people that I've interviewed, you're now my like 81st person I've interviewed. No one's ever brought that up, but I absolutely love that understanding of it.
Yeah.
That it's suffering together. And so it's showing up to help alleviate. Oh, I love that so
I know.
much.
I got goosebumps.
I'm so glad you shared that.
And I think that's, so back to the pet part of that is, especially in a day where our shelters are full and people's heart sees that suffering, they want to protect those animals from that pain, because we felt pain. We know suffering. So I think it's easier to be able to care for a pet and call it your own and your family because of that suffering and that common ground of
Absolutely. And what would you say about, the emotion or the support that animals give us? Because I know that I'm actually not a current pet owner, but I had a cat when I was younger, growing up. No. I'm out of here. She's a fraud.
She's a fraud. She doesn't have a pet.
I do love pets.
We could change that.
With 3 children in my home, 3 small children in my home. I'm not ready for one yet.
I know a lot of adoptables out there that need good homes.
My children would love to hear about them. But I remember having a cat growing up that if I was sick, the cat would not leave my side. And I just remember as a kid thinking like, I can't believe this animal knows that I need this, that he knows that I need him to sit here and just give me some extra love. Like it blows my mind, really. So speak to that.
This might get really deep.
Go right ahead.
It's a little on the spiritual side, and this is me speaking personally.
Yeah.
But I do feel an animal spirit, soul, energy, whatever you want to call it, whatever your beliefs are or not beliefs, but that energy I feel is very positive and powerful. Yeah. And I feel that they have abilities from that type of pure positive energy that we don't have, because let's face it, we let our environment mess us up a lot. So
yes.
And I feel that, animals, you can call it a sixth sense, but I just feel that they come from such a pure place. Like they're just like our guardian angels almost.
And it's like they have that compassionate piece. Like I remember being like 7 or 8 years old and just thinking, I can't believe this animal knows that I need them to hold space with me right now.
Most do. And they know happy, they know sad. And now like with TikTok and all those video channels, reels, you see a lot, at least I see a lot in my feed. It shows you what I'm looking at. But service dogs that are trained to sense epilepsy and heart conditions, they know before the person knows.
It is so incredible.
Where does that come from? You can't train that. Like that's an innate characteristic of that personality in that dog or cat. Yeah.
It's amazing. I interviewed a woman about, her experience with epilepsy I did interview somebody that had epilepsy, but then there was someone else I interviewed, and her sister, she was telling me, had just gotten a dog, a service dog for her epilepsy. And I was blown away. I said, I didn't know that was the case. And then I recently, to your point, saw a video where the dog, and you may have seen the same one because I think it went viral, but where the dog like sensed it and like held her down in place
Yep.
for a long time. Like she said her seizure went on for like over an hour, and this dog laid on top of her until it was over, and she was able to her camera in her house captured it. I think I sobbed watching that. And again, I'm not a pet owner, but I was like, that's incredible. That's just amazing. And so, yeah, it really does speak to this sixth sense or whatever you want to call it that they have, but also just drives home what special roles they play in our lives and how important it is that we collectively as a community take care of them. And that's my next question as we talk about community. What is the importance of community to you, especially when it comes to supporting pets and pet health care?
It's an excellent question because at Emancipet, we feel our communities are a part of us and vice versa. And, not all of our services are the same in each of our clinics because of our communities. We always research a good area before we open, and some places require or have a need. Some communities have a need for a different service. For example, in Texas, our Texas clinics, heartworm is horrible down there. Not so bad here in Philadelphia. So we have that specialty heartworm treatment in Philadelphia or in Texas that we don't have here in Philadelphia. So we really listen to our community so we can provide them what they need to be a stronger community together.
I would imagine that's really important. And also just so that you're making sure that you're prepared, right, for the community need, that you know exactly what it is that's going to be coming through the door every day, multiple cases of heartworm.
Right.
And making sure that you're prepared to meet those needs. So I totally can see how community is very important to everything that you do, but how it specifically is important when you're thinking of how you're going to treat the pets that come through your door. So lastly, can you tell us where we can go to best support and follow along with Emancipet's work?
So again, our website is the great place to start, emancipet.org. The mini documentary is linked there, so you can find that there. You can sign up for our emails to really stay on top of everything that's happening with Emancipet. And we're on social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, pretty much everywhere. So you can follow us and share our story. That's the best way to really get it out there.
Absolutely. That sounds great. We will make sure to include all that in the show notes for today so that everybody can easily access that information.
Thank you.
I encourage our listeners to get involved, support Emancipet, learn more. Definitely watch the documentary.
Yeah. And if you're in the Philadelphia market, feel free to reach out to me directly, Robyn Colajezzi. And I'd be happy to do an in-clinic tour so people can see behind the scenes of the incredible work we do.
That's a great idea. I love that. So definitely take Robyn up on that. Yes. And thank you so much for being here. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.